Danny Gold went to Guinea to see exactly how the deadly Ebola outbreak got its start. This is his debrief.
So bats have a very unique immune system. In the past 20 years, scientists have made some discoveries where viruses like the Hendra virus originated in bats. And they found that, bats have coexisted with some of these viruses for thousands of years, but as environmental changes have happened, people sort of moving into areas where there weren't people before, they've commingled with these wild bat populations that, have these transmission chains that can end up in humans. And that transmission chain is still being studied. But when this outbreak occurred, Ebola is known to be harbored in bats, and scientists sort of focused their efforts on that. I actually did 2 trips to report on Ebola. The first time I went in September was at the height of the outbreak in Liberia. I got the proper training and knowledge from infectious disease specialists. I was definitely a little concerned, especially after I got back and a colleague of mine contracted the virus. It definitely led me to have some moments of great anxiety and panic. When I went back this time, there were far fewer infected people. The situation was more stable than it had been when I was in Monrovia, and I actually wasn't that concerned. There were a few situations during this piece when we had to be careful, but no, this time I wasn't really that concerned at all. There's no real clear reason for why they underestimated it. I think, on the one hand, a lot of cases were underreported, people were hesitant to come forward, and looking back in the history of Ebola, most outbreaks, couple dozen people, couple hundred people, and never really got this huge, and never really got to a population-dense area. So they didn't really know what they were facing, and at the same time, they were urgent to downplay. They didn't really want people to get frantic. They didn't want to cause a situation where there would be a tremendous amount of concern because they feared the sort of results of that. I think that disease fears in the US were completely overblown. We have a very healthy medical infrastructure. We have the tools in place to sort of fight this thing. In the countries that were severely affected by this, they don't have that medical infrastructure. It's still very tragic. It still could have caused a little more damage in the US, but the sort of massive hysteria that broke out was completely unnecessary. It's terrific news that Liberia was just declared Ebola-free. I think it's owed to a number of factors. The US involvement, sending the military there, building up hospitals is definitely a factor, but I think it really comes down to the local communities there who took it upon themselves to spread awareness, and all the brave Liberian staff, a lot of whom we interviewed in the piece, whether it was body retrieval people, healthcare workers, contact tracing people, awareness teams. I think you really do owe a lot of the success rate in Liberia to the local people that put themselves in danger and did a lot of this work for either really low money or just completely unpaid. Without them, I don't think this disease would have been stamped down in Liberia. I think this was definitely a wake-up call for people here. We spoke to Tom Frieden, who's in charge of basically keeping the US safe from disease, and the former Ebola czar, Ron Klain, and they both were just like, yeah, we need to be more ready. We need rapid response teams. We need more capabilities on the ground in places like Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, so that they can get a hold of these things before they reach the devastating level that they did this time. I know there was a plan put forward to start African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which would be a step in the right direction. Hopefully, these plans are actually followed through with, and we get more prevention in areas that really need it, like in West Africa.